Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first of the AGI's Early Career Network webinars. Before I introduce our speaker, just introduce myself, my name's Andy Murdock, and I head up the Early Career Network on behalf of AGI. And I'm initially just going to tell you a little bit more about the scheme and what we're trying to achieve with it before I introduce John. So I'm going to switch over to some slides and so, yeah, so a good bit of background as to the scheme. So basically, AGI represents the UK geospatial industry and has done for 25 years. It supports its members through, various activities and an extensive event program. And I just want to tell you a bit more about the sort of the rationale for the ECN scheme. So basically, we spotted a gap in the support for members, and especially in the early part of their careers. So we wanted to do more to help people who were just coming from students to towards people with up to 10 years GIS experience, and to do more to support these members. So this forms part of a wider initiative to gain greater recognition for the geographic profession and to provide pathways for career development. And if you think about it, really, what we're trying to do is nurture new skills to develop new talent, because ultimately, young professionals are the people who will be developing the next generation of GI products and services. So our structure, our team is, it's made up of AGI people. Obviously, we've got the council, some senior volunteers like myself, and also the ECN team members who are young professionals actively engaged in the running of the scheme. And we also have, working very closely with other GI bodies like Royal Geographic Society and RSGS in Scotland, and also academic institutions. We've got several signed up and hoping to sign several more in the near future. And also we have a variety of sponsors and supporters who either provide space, like the Ordnance Survey kindly have allowed us to use their press room for this webinar today, so thanks to them. But we also have a number of other people who've offered to host events and provide sponsorships. So that's how we're delivering to our members. We're also having very strong links with the Royal Geographical Society in terms of chartered geographer, because the two schemes have a lot of overlap and similar goals. So we're aligning our activities with RSGS and RGS to make sure that we're making the most of events and promoting, career development within our industry, and this idea of recognizing a geographic profession. And ultimately it's about getting people through the system to apply for chartered geographer status and getting their professional accreditations. But there's also a lot we can learn from each other, such as the established mentoring program that they already have in place. Now, our approach to this is very much designed to be for and run by the early career professionals themselves. So we have a team of volunteers, I think it's up to about a dozen people now, and they range from people like Miyuko, who are very early in their careers, just going into their first job, right through to more experienced professionals who are, a number of years into the industry and are perhaps getting ready for chartered geographer applications. And the idea is that we want to put on a series of events to help support early career professionals, and that they are very much run for and by the young professionals themselves. So they're involved in the design and all sorts of other things. So it's sort of practical learning through doing, but hopefully, it's a good opportunity to make contacts, and we'll have a bit of fun along the way. And importantly, that we're not very London-centric in what we do. So, the idea of having webinars so that we can have, many people as possible who are able to access this. So, just to give you a bit of an overview of what the aims are, it's really to build this community of early career professionals. It's to coordinate with our partner organisations to make sure that we're providing this relevant support and suitable events that are meeting the needs of people in the early parts of their careers, but also to raise their profile as well. So, putting on events that showcase their talents. And then, drawing on the experience of more experienced people in the industry who can provide mentoring and advice along the way, and support for building their careers. But ultimately, it's about generating some useful outputs as well. So as part of this, we're going to develop a website, hopefully with a series of resources, and get various links there to things that you're going to find useful. And part of that is generated by the ECN volunteer team themselves. So keep your eye out for the questionnaire, which we'll be launching later in the week, which is really trying to get to grips with your needs and what you want to get out of the scheme, basically, and what your challenges are currently and how we can help. Further to raise the profile of early career professionals, the AGI has introduced a new award into the annual award ceremony, which we held at the end of the conference in November. And this year we've included this Outstanding Early Career Professional Award, which is sponsored by my company APM Geo, and which will seek to recognise outstanding young individuals in the early part of their careers. So how do you join? Well, at the moment the scheme is open to AGI members. So if you're a student member, which is free, then you can just email this ECN at agi.org.uk. Or if your company is a corporate member, then you'll be able to sign up. If you're not, you can register to join as an individual member, and I think it's something like £70 a year to join. So hopefully not too difficult for people to get involved. And you can either get involved as a member just of the network, you can volunteer more actively, but we also want to encourage institutions, companies and universities to get involved in the scheme so that we can make it a success and put on lots of events. So just a reminder that if you're logged in via the Google Plus system as opposed to YouTube, you'll be able to submit comments and questions over the way, and we very much welcome those. So we'll be having a short session for questions at the end. But if you have any comments, then do, or any questions that you want to ask John, then please submit them. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jon Graham, who's the Business Development Manager for Triad, and he's who better place to tell us about what's going on in the industry. He's placing lots of people in jobs. He's got a good appreciation of how things have changed in the industry. So I'm going to hand over to John, and he's going to tell you about his experiences and give you the benefit of his advice.
Hi everyone, and thanks a lot for tuning in today, and thanks to Andy and AGI for inviting us along to be part of the Early Career Network. Around about 2 months ago, Andy approached me and asked me if Triad wanted to be part of this, and it was an opportunity that we were really excited to get involved with, and to try and help and support people in the early stage of their career grow within the industry. I wanted just to take you through a few different sections, and first of all I just wanted to do an introduction to Triad, just to tell you a bit more about us and exactly what we do. As a recruitment consultancy, we've been around now since 1988. That was the consultancy division, and the recruitment arm started in around about 1994, 1995, so we're close to 20 years old. The GIS division, that's about 15 years old, so around about 2000, 2001, and we started our GIS business. The background to the GIS team, as I said, it was started in around about 2000, 2001, predominantly based around supplying into local authorities, into councils, into local government. And from there, as the team expanded and as more people joined, with some really good people working for us over the years, we branched out into different industry sectors. So whilst we still work within government, we also supply into other consultancies as well. So environmental consultancies, engineering consultancies, renewable energy consultancies, utilities companies. So it's across a full range of industries, and we feel it's quite healthy to have business like that, where we're not just supplying into one business area. So we do supply across the whole of the GIS industry. Kind of people we supply, again, it's the whole spectrum really. It's graduates and people who are early in their career like yourselves, people fresh out of university, people with 2, 3, 4, 5 years experience. But we also supply consultants as well, so guys who've been in the industry for their whole lives, or have spent a considerable amount of time in the industry. So it's anything from graduates all the way through to technicians, analysts, software developers, program project managers. again, hopefully we're there to support you the whole way through your career, from the junior level all the way through to becoming hopefully one day a senior level person. A bit about myself. I joined Triad in 2004. Put straight into the GIS team, and from there, 2010, I took over the team and became a sort of practice manager for the business, and that's us now 5 years down the line, and I'm still there, and I'm still working within that team and heading up a team of individuals dedicated to GIS. So I've just got a few slides just to accompany the initial sort of introductory section that I'll take you through, just to summarise. Triad, 1988, so we're quite an old company, 27 years old as it goes. Recruitment arm, that's Milton Keynes based, that's where I work. It's been going since 1995. We've got a UK-wide client base, so we're not penned into a specific geographic location. We supply anywhere from Scotland to South East, Wales, South West, the Midlands, you know, anywhere within the UK. Just a nice graphic there, just to give you an example and just to show you where our geographic locations are: Buckinghamshire, Milton Keynes, and Godalming in Surrey. And so that moves on to the next section. I just wanted to give you just a brief overview of what we want to achieve from the presentation, and how we can help you guys. So what we want to do is we want to look and try to help you understand the GIS jobs market a bit better. I want to try and share my knowledge with you, give you some advice on job searching, give you some advice on putting a CV together, help you develop your career within GIS. I've got some statistics, a few statistics and charts and stuff to show you, just for some stats on the GIS jobs market, and hopefully ongoing in the future, and as we go on, Triad can support you in various job searches that you might be looking for. So I'll move into the sort of first section that we've got, and it's just what's in demand, and just having a look at some of the things that are prevalent in the GIS industry. So you guys probably are aware of this, but the most commonly used software, what we see the most as recruitment consultants, it's Esri's ArcGIS. No, that's no secret. You guys will be aware that certainly is the major player in the industry. I would say 85 to 90% of our jobs that we get through, this is the core software that people use. So it's incredibly important. And I know that universities are very good with ArcGIS. It tends to be the software that's used most throughout your degree, if you're on a GIS degree. It's important that you learn ArcGIS inside out, as well as the extensions to ArcGIS, things like Spatial Analyst as well. There's also some other softwares as well that we see a few requirements come through to fill jobs with MapInfo, things like Intergraph, GeoMedia by Intergraph as well, and there's some industry-specific softwares. For example, if it's a utilities company, quite often utilities companies work with a software called Small World. So there are some softwares out there that are quite specific to certain industries. Autodesk as well, who make AutoCAD, that you might have heard of if you're looking to get into sort of maybe design and construction sort of environments as you go on in your career. And certainly that's something that we see within job specifications as well. So as well as having your core GIS skills, it's quite good to have some supporting skills as well. Things like remote sensing, things like LiDAR, photogrammetry, and I know quite a lot of the modules that you guys do, depending on what course you undertake, will have some of these things within the modules as well. So I think those things are really important. It's good to have other strings to your bow, as well as the sort of core GIS skills that you would get from your degree and from your first few years with working in a GIS environment. Something that we've seen quite a lot of, I'd say, in the last few years is a move towards open source software as well. Open source is free software, so as you can imagine, a lot of people like to use it. It doesn't cost them much money. I suppose the jury is still out there with regards to how well these softwares are supported. Because they're free, they certainly won't be as well supported as an ArcGIS or a MapInfo, but no, I understand the support for those is getting better, and we are seeing clients use more and more open source software, things like QGIS, PostGIS, OpenLayers, MapGuide, things like that. Something that we're also seeing as well is especially maybe 1 to 2 years into your career, is that we're getting clients ask us for people who maybe have little bits of development experience as well. Now, I'm not talking about hardcore development and hardcore programming, but just little bits of coding, little bits of programming that might help within the job. Now, it might be completely irrelevant to some of you. Some of you may be looking to get into jobs that will have absolutely no need for any sort of programming experience, and it wouldn't be relevant to you. But if you're looking to get into the more technical side of GIS, it's good to try and pick these skills up early in your career if that's the direction that you're looking to move in. So I'm talking about things like Python, SQL, JavaScript, so nothing too hardcore or too in-depth. We see a lot of web-based technologies as well. So things like ArcGIS Server is quite often within job specifications that our client release. And so that's something that if you get the opportunity to look at or get the opportunity to have a download of and have a look around, it's worthwhile. I'd say within the last 18 months to 2 years as well, we've seen quite a lot of clients asking us for people with software skills within the software that help you with automated and repetitive tasks. Things like Azure Model Builder, Safe FME. Again, these are things that help you do huge repetitive tasks without having to go over the same job over and over again. So whether these are covered in your degree, I'm not sure. Some may not. But again, it's worth going onto those websites to try and find some downloads, just so you can get a grasp and get an idea of exactly what these things are, if you haven't touched on them already. Most of the job specs we receive through have, to one degree or another, a request for database skills. This ranges from sort of basic use of things like Excel to more technical database experience, things like SQL, SQL Server, maybe even ArcSDE, Access. So I'd say that it's important to have database skills as well, and specifically if you can get more technical database skills, I think that would definitely help in the job search going forward, whether you're fresh out of university or whether you've been in the market for a few years and you're looking to progress to your next job. Continuing your personal development is incredibly important. I think, you know, if you keep up to date with the latest versions of software, specifically it's the software that's used quite a lot in a specific sector that you want to be involved in. You may find that you moved off a certain software within a job to work on another project, and you may want to keep up to date with that particular software that you know you're going to want to keep your skills up fresh with going forward in the future. So looking at the AGI website and the RGS website, there's actually quite a few accredited courses on there, industry standard courses that they recommend, and it might be worth having a look on those websites for the various training courses and to help you keep your skills fresh and to keep the latest versions of software fresh. So whilst we're just talking about AGI as well, I wanted to talk to you just about accreditations and I think getting an accreditation and becoming a student member of the AGI, I think that's something that if you haven't done already, you really should do. I believe AGI is free. I think there's a small charge for Royal Geographic Society, but again, you really do want to feel part of the community if this is the way that you're going with your career. And I think to do that at an early stage and to get a free membership, you know, it is free, so you'd be mad not to take it on board. And the AGI one certainly. AGI run events throughout the year. They run workshops, they run exhibitions, they run conferences, and these things are great for people like yourself to go to, whether you're a student or whether you're early within your career. It's a great opportunity to go and learn about new technologies. It's a great opportunity to go and network, meet people who could be future employers, meet people like yourself, share experiences and share ideas as well. So just to summarise that section as well, I just had just another set of slides just to summarise what we just discussed. There, and you can put them on for me. Okay, so good news, GIS skills are in demand. I probably should have had that slide on before I started talking about that section, but there we go, we'll ignore that. Esri ArcGIS, so again, like I said, that it is the most popular software that we see. 85–90% of the jobs, I would say, that hit my desk, this is the core software that's used. But there are other softwares as well, things like MapInfo, Autodesk, Intergraph, and we see a fair bit of that as well. Development skills, we've brushed on earlier. Again, nothing too hardcore, but I think it's important that if you are looking to move in that technical direction, you do try and get some skills with things like Python, SQL, JavaScript, just so you've got a little bit of coding and development experience in case that is a requirement for a client. some of you may have picked these skills up at university or can do. You may want to take some courses. Some of you may have the opportunity to do within current jobs that you're in at the moment. Again, complementary skills, really important. You will have the core GIS skills, but it's good to have strings to your bow. And things like remote sensing, LiDAR, AutoCAD, if you're looking to move into an engineering and construction environment, things like that, where AutoCAD's required. Web-based GIS, things like ArcGIS Server, experience with open source that we talked about earlier, the open source software, the free software, the automation softwares as well, the model builder and FME, things that help you complete repetitive tasks a lot more efficiently, and really importantly as well, database skills. I think that's it's pretty important that you do pick up skills in databases, Excel, Access, SQL Server, things like that. So just moving on to the next section, we pulled some information from itjobswatch.co.uk just to give you an idea of some of the trends that we've seen with GIS jobs and salaries and things like that. So we'll take you through them, and I'll show you the graphics and try and talk through them best I can. So what you see on the right hand side is obviously it's a map of the UK. I'm sure you guys all know that, being a GIS geography background. On the left hand side is the 5 most popular geographical locations that we've found where jobs with, and I must stress, this is jobs with GIS in the actual job title. This isn't jobs with GIS in the job specification. There will be a lot more jobs that have GIS within the actual specification of the job. We just didn't have access to that data. These are purely jobs that have GIS in the job title. So the core function of that job is GIS, things like GIS manager, GIS technician, GIS developer, things like that. But there will be a lot more jobs that will have GIS within the spec. And the stats you see in front of you are pretty reflective of what I find as well. London South East is by far and away the place in the UK where most jobs are, and that's reflected well within the stats that we put together there. Yorkshire, again, another big county. It's quite a large area, 5 million odd people, so it's no surprise to see Yorkshire on there. Southwest, it's quite a popular area, Devon. Some of you may know there's a few big players in the GIS industry down there. So I'm not surprised to see the Southwest on there as well. And the West Midlands, obviously the Birmingham area, that's the 5th on there. So that's the top 5, and I hope we've sort of greened out the areas on the right hand side to give you an idea of where we think. As you can see, it's quite centric towards the south and the southeast, which is normal. Edinburgh's highlighted. You can ignore that. I have no idea why that's highlighted, so we'll look at that as a glitch in the system. But yeah, I hope that gives you an idea of where the jobs are. And if you are located in another area, don't be disheartened about that. There is other jobs there. But it does tend to be in the south that most jobs are, which I think is a reflection of the UK as a whole. The next chart is the next table. Sorry, is just average salaries. Again, I've got to stress, there does seem like quite a big jump in there. This is information that we got from IT Jobs Watch over the last 2 years. I mean, whether that's because the skills are in more demand, I'm not sure. Whether that's because we've come out of the recession and there's more money, I'm not sure. But however, these are average salaries, so this is taking into account everything, consultancy, as well as down to graduate salaries. So hopefully it gives you a good picture of where most of you guys could be aiming towards, after you complete your degrees or after you complete your first few years of employment, and where you want to sort of be aiming, if you make the right decisions, of course, if you make the right decisions within your career choices. This graph is quite similar to the table that we just looked at. It's a bigger picture of the last 10 years of the average salaries within the GIS industry. As you can see, the yellow line that stretches from July 2004 to up to the present date. It's a slow, steady increase, which I think can only be positive. So yeah, that's a good thing. The dark blue in the middle is that's the average. The largest percentage of people, that's their average salaries. The lighter blue, as you can see at the bottom, the lighter blue, that's probably your graduate salaries. That's probably where you're looking to start off. Most people are looking to start off. And the top end of the lighter blue there, you can see that's the consultancy salary range, and that's what they would be earning. There's another big glitch in the system there, January 2014, where there's a big spike, and I've got no idea or no explanation of how to explain that, but that's the data that we have. Now this graph shows a percentage of IT jobs in the UK demanding GIS skills. quite a lot of you guys will look at that and you'll see just under 1%. You might not think that is too big a figure, but actually when you think of the vast amount of IT jobs every year that go out in the UK, I think that's quite a large figure. You know, you're talking in the high hundreds of thousands, perhaps even into the millions of jobs, and it is a serious figure, and even 1% of that is quite good. So I think that's quite positive. You can see, if you look at the start of the graph, July 2004, which is around about when I joined Triad, which I hope doesn't explain the sharp decline just after I joined. However, you can see it's been quite rocky and it dips down quite a bit, makes a little bit of a recovery, and then obviously the recession kicks in, and it sort of falls back down again. And since then, it's been making a bit of a recovery again. And as you can see, a bit like the country as a whole, really, it's been a bit up and down. And I think the positive things, if you look right at the right-hand side of the chart, and you can see that sharp incline that we've had since the start of the year. If it keeps going in that direction, I think everyone will be happy, both ourselves and you guys who are out there looking for jobs. So I think that's positive. And as I said, 1%, it does seem small, but in real terms, that's not a small number. That's a very large number of jobs. So just wanted to talk again. When Andy first asked us to do the webinar, he asked us to sort of put some stats together and try and give some advice from our point of view and within the market, and share some of our experiences with you. And I also wanted to try and give you guys some advice on job searching and putting the CVs together. So I just want to talk about job searching for a little bit, try and give you guys some hints and tips, some do's and don'ts of what you might want to do when you're searching for jobs from a recruiter's perspective, how we think when we're looking to recruit people for jobs. Now, we're going to come on to a specific section about the CV later as well, but I did want to add it into the job searching part as well, because it's obviously a very important part of it. It's important to spread your CV really far and wide. Now, don't assume that your CV is going to fall onto people's desks or drop into their inboxes. You guys have to go out there and really push it on people, and you really have to get your CV out there, and you have to put some effort into that. There's a number of ways that you can actually do that. One is to approach companies like ourselves, like Triad, and get in touch with us, build relationships with us, and we can start considering you for jobs that we get in from our clients. You can speak to companies directly. Some of you guys may have an idea of the industry that you want to work in. Some of you may have even identified specific companies that you want to work for. Approach these people with your CV and find out who the companies are who are in the industry that really interest you, and approach these people and send your CV to them and make yourself known. Again, your CV doesn't get onto people's inboxes on its own. You guys really have to go out there and make sure it's seen by people. You guys will probably be aware of job boards as well. These are the boards where you can actually post your CV as an advertisement, so that potential employers can go on there and find you. Now, there's quite a few job boards around. Some of them are advertised on CV on TV quite well. You probably know the names Monster and Read.co.uk and JobSite. But there's some other ones as well, and these they're free to put your CV on. So if you're going to put your CV on one, you may as well put your CV on all of them. It's like what I was saying. It's really important to get your CV out there, to get it seen, and to get yourself noticed. So yeah, get your CV out there and get it far and wide is a really good piece of advice. Touching on the job boards again, you can actually go onto the job boards and set yourself reminders. So, for example, if you're looking for a job within GIS, you might want to set yourself a reminder so that every morning, every company or recruitment company who advertise a job the day before with the word GIS in it drops into your inbox in the morning. You can do that, and you can go onto these various job boards, Read, Monster, JobSite, JobServe, CV Library, and actually set yourself up a reminder. But there was actually another very helpful website as well called Indeed.co.uk. Some of you may have heard of it before, and it's the same principle on there. You can go on and you can put GIS in, and what Indeed does is it scrapes all of the major databases for you, and it finds all of the jobs advertised by recruiters and recruitment companies, and it puts it into one easy to manage email for you. So some of you might want to consider having a look at that. Again, you can actually put geographical locations as well, so you don't just have to put in I'm interested in jobs at GIS. You could put I'm interested in GIS jobs, but only in Manchester, or only in Glasgow, or only in Newcastle, so you can find jobs within the area that you want to live in going forward. But you can also at the same time get them for all of the UK. So if you want to get an idea of the picture of the market, or if you're not fussy about where you relocate to, you can do that as well. Really important to put a lot of energy into your job search. Going back to what I said about the CV and getting it out there, you guys spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort putting yourself through university, and it's a hard slog. So it would seem really stupid for you not to put as much energy as you do into getting your degree, into getting your job, because I would guess that for most of you, getting the right job, getting the best job is the reason why you do a degree. It's for your career and it's for the long-term future of your career. So I would really say put a lot of energy into it. Treat it as importantly as you treat doing your degree, because this is your future. Sending CVs across, when you do send CVs across to clients as well, don't be afraid to pick the phone up and speak to people and introduce yourself to people once you've sent a CV. I sit there sometimes and I've got 20 CVs in front of me, and I'm trying to sift through them and look for who's most applicable to the job. And somebody whose CV's in front of me might pick the phone up and speak to me and point me in the direction of their experience and explain to me what they've done and explain to how the job spec matches the CV. So don't be afraid to pick the phone up and speak to companies that you send CVs to, and make yourself known to them and introduce yourself to the people who make these decisions about recruiting. Make sacrifices as well. It's important, especially for graduates, first 1 or 2 years of your career. You really don't want to fall out of the industry. You really don't want to end up spending 4 or 5 years at university for only to come out and not get a job within the industry. Some of you guys are going to be really lucky. Some of you are going to come out of university and you're going to get the job you want, in the location you want, and the salary and the money that you want. But that just isn't true for everyone, and that's life. So some people probably will have to make sacrifices, and I can't stress enough how important that is in the first 2 years, not to drop out of the industry. It's really, really important. It's really, really difficult to place people who, for example, complete a degree and then they may go away, and 4 or 5 years later they haven't done anything to do with GIS, and they're trying to get back into the industry. Those people are incredibly difficult to place because they haven't used the software, they haven't kept up to date with things, and they've not been in the industry. So make sacrifices early on. You might have to move away, you might have to take a job that isn't quite the job you want, you might have to take a salary that isn't quite what you expected. But again, this is only the first few years of your career, and it's really important to stay within the industry and keep your skills fresh and keep gathering evidence for that CV, so that when you do go for the next job, and I do promise you, if you make sacrifices early on and you have to do that, you will find it easier to get the second and the third job and go on within your career. I think it's important to consider graduate programs as well. It's another good way of looking for jobs. Hopefully you've all got good careers officers at your university, and they might be able to help you out with that. But again, going back to what I said earlier on, there may be specific industries that you want to work in, and there may be specific companies that you want to work for. And scope these companies out, see if they've got graduate programs, get in there early, speak to companies directly and see what they're doing and see what they do with graduates. So don't be afraid to pick the phone up or make inquiries, and force yourself upon people. Voluntary work as well. Like I said, if some of you don't quite find the job you want, it's really important to stay within the industry and keep your skills fresh. Employers will look on voluntary workers just as they do as employment. It might be unpaid, and I think again you may have to make sacrifices, but being in the industry and keeping your skills fresh is really important. So maybe even just for 1, 2 months, 3 months, if you're finding yourself you're not quite finding the job you want, it might be worth taking on some voluntary work if it's possible for you to do as well. And I know the next point isn't applicable to everyone because it's just not in some people's nature, but I always think it's important to make decisions early on in your career. If you set yourself a clear vision, a clear goal, and tasks, and where you see yourselves in the short, medium, and long term, I think that's really important. And from my experience, people who do work that way have often been able to progress better in their career as time goes on. So having goals and having a vision for where you see yourself in the short, medium, and long term, I think is really important, and it gives you something to work towards as well. And I think that'll be really good for your ongoing development. And it is a very competitive market, so I suppose it's just a summary of all of the above, really, that you really got to get yourself out there. You've got to make yourself better than the next person, and you've got to do everything you can to get yourself ahead, because there is a lot of people out there looking for jobs, and things are competitive. So get yourself out there and put yourself up on people and apply for as many jobs as you can, and make yourself known. So summarising just what I spoke about, get your CV out there, really important. Job advertising boards. Again, we covered that. The job advertising boards that you can advertise on and put your CV on. So effectively, it's like a CV advertisement. You put your CV up there, and people looking for the candidates will find it. Put a lot of energy into your job search. Be proactive and get out there and do things. Don't wait for it to come to you. And if you are that sort of person, make decisions early in your career. So you might not be, but if you are, make those decisions, set goals, set targets, and give yourself some things to aim for. And just remember, it is a competitive market, so try and stay ahead of the game, and try and make yourself better than the next person who's looking for a job. So the next section I just wanted to take you on to is about CVs. We briefly mentioned CVs earlier, about getting them out there. The CV is incredibly important. It's your window to the jobs world. It's your window to the jobs market. People don't know who you are. They've never met you, and this is their first look at you, if you say so. If a recruiter like myself or an employer receives a CV, and it's very easy on the eye, it's formatted well, it's got good content, it's much better than receiving a CV that just hasn't been cared for. The fonts are all different. It's not formatted very well. The content's terrible. Take care of your CV. You guys really wouldn't believe some of the CVs that I received. Some of them are terrible, and some of them are great. And I've actually got a really good CV that somebody's very kindly agreed to let me use. Later on, I'm just going to show you some examples of how it's formatted, so that you can see how I think, from my perspective, a good CV looks. Again, this is your introduction, and you know what people say about first impressions. It's the first time that a potential employer is going to hear from you and going to see you. So when they open that CV, they want to see something nice, something easy on the eye, and something that's been presented well, as well as having good content. Because I said, it is a first impression. Something I think that's really important when doing your CV is tailoring each CV to each job that you're applying for. Now, most jobs that you'd apply for, they'll all have a GIS element, I would guess, but there may be slight differences within the job spec. So I think it's really important to change and alter your CV based on each job that you send it for, and not just the blanket pattern. Blanket send a CV for each role, because they could be different. So you want to take the job spec and you want to take your CV, and you want to look at your CV and the job spec and compare them. And there might be things within that job spec that you think, well, I've done that and I've done that, but actually it's not reflected very well within my CV. Because an employer has 20, 30 CVs, 40, 50 CVs maybe. They're looking for buzzwords. They're looking for things that are within the spec. They can't dedicate time to look through that many CVs. So you do find that if there's a lot of CVs on someone's desk, they probably will scan through them and look for real relevant parts of that job spec. So it's important that the CV you send matches the job that you send. And if you haven't done the things that job spec has got within it, then it's not the job for you. But if you have, then highlight it on your CV. Make sure that the potential recruiter, the potential employer, sees the specific things that are within a job spec on your CV. And I think it's really important that you do that. That's a really crucial piece of advice. When I see CVs that are really tailored towards the job, that's what really gets my attention and makes me read it fully and give it a full, thorough read. Formatting of the CV as well. We've actually got a slide of a CV, and we'll put it on now just whilst I'm talking here, and then I'll go into it in a bit more detail. As I said, somebody very kindly let me use this CV for the presentation. I'll just show you it now. So formatting the CV is really important. Again, I touched on it earlier. Things being easy on the eye for recruiters and employers are very important. We see lots and lots and lots of CVs. Some of them are absolutely terrible. Some of them, like the one you see, are really good. And as you can see, I hope you all agree with me, it's quite easy to read. You look through it and everything's quite well separated out. So it's very important to do that. And I think some of the tips I can give you there is use the same font within your CV. Don't change the fonts around and use different fonts. Try and keep the text sizes as close together. You may just want to increase the size slightly when you're introducing each section, and you may want to just put each section's header in bold. You can see there where education and qualifications, for example, has been bolded out, so there's a clear separation from the personal details section before. So I think that's important, that you keep fonts the same and you keep fonts the similar size as well. I'm not a big fan of people putting graphics on their CV as well. They're not very good for the format, and they tend to get in the way of the text. However, if you're going for more of a designy sort of construction company job, I don't see a problem with it. But I don't really feel them necessary, and it's the same with photos as well. Some people like to put photos on their CV. Again, it doesn't really enhance the CV any. As long as it doesn't get in the way of the text, I don't see too much problem with it. But it's not something that I would advise doing. Definite no from my point of view personally. I don't know what others think about it. Is putting the content of your CV into tables and into boxes. Really don't like that at all from a recruiter's perspective. Sometimes you have to reformat CVs, but it tends to box things in, and I just think, you know, if you look at the CV in front, it's just a free-flowing format CV, no boxes, things aren't boxed in and compacted in. And something else I don't like is you can see the key skills and the information technology on the left-hand side. Some people in their CVs grade themselves 1 to 10, you know, 1 to 5. I really don't think it's worthwhile doing this, because what your interpretation of a sort of level 3 might be different interpretation of what the person looking at your CV and is going to recruit you is. So I would say don't grade yourself on the technologies that you use or the experience you've had. Just list them on your CV. So just wanted to go through the CV in a bit more detail with you, just so you can get an idea. I mean, the actual content isn't too important. What's there isn't too important. This is more about how it's formatted and how, when people like me who recruit see it and find it easy on the eye. The content is important, of course, but I'm just trying to show you the format in here. So as you can see, there's nice separate sections within the CV. You can clearly see that each thing's been sectioned off. So when you're reading it, you know you're going on to a different part of the CV. The headers are bolded, which I think is good as well, because again, it helps to separate the different sections. And again, within here, if you look at this person's educational experience, they've put the actual degree they've done in bold, and then the actual place that they've studied in a non-bold, and that helps to separate things. And I think that's a good format as well. Going down onto the key transferable skills, this is the area that I was talking about, where you could perhaps tailor your CV to the job specifications. So you have a job specification, and you may look in this area, and your CV may not reflect the job specification well, and you can make some changes here, because if you've done things and they're in the job spec and they're not reflected well on your CV, then you know that really is silly, because you know, this is your opportunity to get your experience across. So you can go into a bit more detail on things that you've done, just a summary on some of the transferable skills that you might have. So below, again, a list of the actual IT skills that you've used. Really important that you put that on there so that clients can see what you've used. Again, it's important to get everything down there. Whether you've just used it a small amount, whether you use it a large amount, you know, it's important that you reflect that on your CV, and especially if it's within the job spec, you want to make it stand out as well. And this guy's put hobbies here, and actually normally this is at the end of the CV, but I don't see the problem with having it in this part of the CV. I think it looks quite nice there. I think it's important that you do put something like this within your CV. I have had clients turn people down in the past because they haven't put a section like this on there. I think people, some employers, not all, want to see a bit more of the human side of the person that they're going to recruit as well. So that's an important section. The next section is the work history. So for those of you in work at the minute who are looking to move on to the next stage, have a look at how this guy's formatted it. I just think this is really good. Because again, some of the CVs you receive are just terrible. It's just one big paragraph, no spaces, no separate paragraphs, no different sections. This is really good. So he's put 3 different key points within the CV. One is about the company information, tells you a little bit about the company that he's been working for. The next one's the key responsibilities and the projects that he's worked on. So again, this is another opportunity where some of you guys could maybe tailor your CV to the job specification. So that lists the things that he's done, the day-to-day tasks. And then at the bottom, he's put key achievements, which I think is really good as well. You know, there's notable things that you've done within the job, things that you've received a pat on the back for, you've received a certification for. You know, it's good to have this on there as well, because it shows people, shows potential employers, you know, achievements that you've made. I'm aware that a lot of you guys will be fresh graduates as well. So you may not have work experience, but within this section you might want to put things like voluntary experience. Some of you may have done some summer experience and doing a voluntary job, may have done a gap year, an internship. Again, it's as good as normal employment, even if you haven't been paid for it. But again, look at the format and look at the way you would lay it out. So I think that's a great layout. If you haven't done any work at all, if you're just fresh out of university, again, you could change this section here, and what you could do again is look at the job spec and maybe pick some modules out from the degree that you've done, or maybe you've done a couple of degrees, and you can maybe go into a bit more detail with relevant modules or that are relevant. Perhaps it's a module that you achieved really well on, got a really high mark on. You maybe take 3 or 4 of those and just elaborate a little bit more on what you've done within them, just to bulk your CV out a little bit. I mean, I think for a graduate, a 2-page CV is good if you've got sort of a little bit of experience. Maybe a 3-page CV is good. I've seen one-page CVs before. I don't really like them. I don't think they have enough detail on them. So you should make an effort to try and bulk it out as much as you can in those early parts of your career. But I would say when you start getting into the 4 or 5 page CVs, I think you need to start thinking about trimming it down a bit. Even as your career goes on, I've had pages in the CVs with 12, 13, 14, 15 pages, and they're just no good. They're not what we want to see. So it is a summary of yourself. It's an introduction to yourself. Have a look at the formatting. Have a look at the way it's been laid out, because it's very easy on the eye, and trust me, people who have a lot of CVs on their desk find things like this a lot easier to go through when they can read it easier, and things are explained better and they're relevant to the job. And there's just the second part of the CV again. That's the third page. So again, it's formatted in the exact same way. So just sort of coming towards the end of the discussion and what I wanted to go through, I just wanted to maybe speak to you about the future, and without needing to pigeonhole people and what you should or shouldn't be doing, and it might cover some of what we've discussed already. The first few years is really important. Again, I'm going to stress and get it over again. Don't fall out of the industry. Make sacrifices. Some of you are going to be really lucky and get the jobs that you want, and some of you aren't. And for those that don't get disheartened, because there are jobs out there. It just may mean that you have to make some sacrifices to get them, and some sacrifices to get that experience. Again, in the first few years, don't be too fussy. If you don't get the job that you want, experience is all key here. Not dropping out the industry. So make sure that you keep within the industry, and you make sacrifices to get the job that you want. It's important that you gather CV material as well, and staying out of the industry for a long time means that you can't add to that CV, and you can't keep continuously developing. So if the job's not exactly what you want, you could use the period, the first year or two, perhaps in a job that you don't particularly want to find that job that you want, and try and be a bit more selective about going forward. As long as you're in the industry, then I think that's what's most important. After the sort of first 1-2 years, and some of you will be graduates, some of you will be already into your first and second years of employment. If you haven't decided the industry you want to work in, I think it's really important that you start to think about that. Some of you may want to work across a number of industries. Some of you may think, I want to work specifically in the environmental industry. That's where I see myself. Some of you think I might want to work for engineering companies, and I see myself working for an engineering company, a construction company, and doing that sort of work. Some of you might want to get into the oil and gas industry, the renewables industry. So 1-2 years in, if you're not within the industry that you want to be in, it's maybe important to start thinking about working for companies that have projects in those areas, or maybe actually working for companies in those industries themselves. Looking a bit further into the future as well. Some of you won't even bother to think and look 5-10 years into the future, but some of you might want to as well, and try to make decisions on where you see your career going. Some of you may be more technical, back office orientated, at which point it's important to keep your technical skills up to fresh and up to date. And some of you might see yourselves in more of a consultative role, a sales role, a marketing role. And I think if that's for you, if that's what you think you want to do, it's important to think about getting and applying for jobs and looking for jobs where there's more of a client-facing approach, because that really does help to build your confidence, and I think that's an important thing going forward. So that's just a little summary on 1 to 2 years in the future, and 5 to 10 years in the future. Again, it's not to pigeonhole people and say this is what you must do, but maybe just to give you an idea of and some thoughts about where you want to be. So again, there's a small slide just to accompany that section, and that's based on the future. So it's seek continuous development within your role. So keep pushing yourself in your role, and keep trying to work on new things. Work towards specific goals and visions. Have a long, short, medium term ambitions and goals. Keep gathering evidence for your CV. You're only going to do this by being in work in the GIS industry, and keeping working on different projects and doing different things, and adding to that CV, so that when you do go for job number 2 and 3, you find it a lot easier. Push yourself out of your comfort zone as well. If you find that you're stuck in doing the same job that you're not too keen on, really do try and push yourself to do different things and new challenges, and I think that's really important as well. And the last point is get involved in the industry as well. I brushed on it earlier. It's be part of the geographic community. Go and join the AGI, go and join the RGS, attend workshops, attend exhibitions, attend conferences. These are really good networking opportunities, and I think they'll help you going forward, that if you're involved in these events. So So coming towards the end of the presentation now, just do a quick recap on everything we went through. So we went through Triad's experience in the GIS recruitment market. We went through some GIS skills and GIS trends. We went through job market, GIS job trends specifically in statistics. How to make your CV stand out. I hope that was really helpful for some of you guys, and you found that useful. And hopefully, you know, even if you take 1 or 2 bits from this presentation, I hope that increases your chance of finding a job, and I hope it gives you some advice on what to do and how to navigate, what was a difficult time a bit better than before. So last page is just, there's agencies out there who you can approach to help you. I've got my contact details on there. So, feel free to call me or one of my colleagues who works along with me in the GIS team. There's a few of us who work on the team. My email address is on there. Go and have a look at our website as well, the GIS section within the website. I'm going to try and put a link to this webinar on there as well at some point. So feel free to contact us, send us your CVs, get in touch, and hopefully we can help you going forward within your career. And I'll hand back to Andy. I think we've got some questions to go through.
Let's shuffle across. Well, just before I do, just thanks a lot, John. That was a really useful insight into your experience of our industry, and it's really interesting to see those graphs and that things are picking up, and fascinating. Before I move on to the questions, just an apology for those who haven't been able to get logged in and are watching this retrospectively. The good thing this is being recorded, but we seem to have had a few issues with one of the links. So apologies for that, but at least you'll be able to catch up later. And it would be useful if people do have questions and are able to log in by the Google Plus one, whether they can send those now. But we had a few via email earlier, so I'm just going to pull those up for our benefit. So I guess the first one was, what are the most commonly requested skills for GIS developers and analysts? And I guess to some extent we've covered that. Yeah, I think we covered that quite well. I mean, early on, we don't see too many requests for those sort of skills early on in the career. That they do come up. It's worthwhile having them, but it's not the hardcore Java, .NET stuff that you see when people move into consultancy developer jobs. As I've brushed on earlier, things like SQL, Python, JavaScript, things like that. And then the second one was, are graduates from certain institutions favoured over others? And if so, which ones are favourite and why? That's a slightly controversial one.
I've never, in 11 years, I've never had a client specify they must come from this particular institution, or they must have done. Sometimes they specify courses occasionally. Sometimes they specify they would like to people with MSCs. That comes up now and again. But certainly institution-wise, I've never come across it. Whether people subconsciously make those decisions, I don't know. But I've never come across that before.
Okay. And as a graduate, what are the best ways to gain experience? What are the most relevant institutions or companies? Again, we've kind of covered that.
Yeah, we've sort of covered that. Yeah, I mean, I made quite a few references to it in the presentation. Staying in the industry is really important. Getting into a company who will allow you to use GIS software is really important. And it's also important to be members of institutions like the AGI and the RGS as well, because these do give you the good networking opportunities that you guys can benefit for going forward in your career. So I think it's important to get signed up to the AGI and the RGS so you feel part of the community.
Okay, and then how highly regarded are the industry certifications such as Chartered Geographer, RICS, Esri, etc. by employers?
I don't see too many requests for Chartered Geographers, if I'm being honest. However, I think going forward in your career, it's not a bad thing to look at. I know there's certainly a drive towards trying to get people to Chartered Geographer status. So maybe not initially in your career, but something to think about in the future. Especially if you're quite academically minded and you like these sort of things, it's worthwhile thinking about. Esri provide great certifications and great courses. Again, we touched on it, keeping up to date with latest releases of software, things like that are really important. Things that you might not have covered at university within your jobs, you may pick up certain extensions for various softwares, and you think, I wouldn't mind doing a module or a course on that. Esri run a lot of those, and again, we brushed on it earlier. AGI, then their website, some accredited courses as well that you can refer back to.
I mean, I think wearing another hat, you know, I'm involved with the Chartered Geography scheme, Chartered Geographer scheme, and you know, that's very much something that we're looking at is promoting and gaining greater recognition for these certifications, and you know, as a wider push with organisations like AGI and Ordnance Survey and various people coming together to sort of recognise this geographic profession. I think anything that you can do that sets you apart from the other candidate is going to be a benefit. But we obviously need to make the schemes a bit more visible to the industry. So that's useful. So any advice specifically on how to progress in your current role? I guess, you know, what further can you do?
Yes, that's always driving yourself forward, really. Always pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You know, trying to allow senior people to within the company that you work for to let you be involved in a different range of projects. You know, picking up different skills through those projects as well. You know, what you might find is as you switch from project to project, you might get the opportunity to use different softwares and different skills, and that's really important as well, and that will help you progress going forward within your career.
Okay, we're actually starting getting some questions through, so just let me, so this is from Zhu Tiao, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm about to complete my MSc in Earth Observation and GIS, and I'm very interested in the environmental sector, but in a position where remote sensing is used more heavily. Are first jobs like these common?
Yeah, we do. There is some companies out there who are very specific towards Earth observation, remote sensing and stuff like that. All I'd say is do a simple Google search on some of those companies and try and find out the best companies to work for. We do get some of those jobs coming up now and again, but I do know there is companies out there who are specifically Earth observation companies, specifically involved in remote sensing and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, if that's the degree you've done, you know, there are companies out there for you and that you can investigate and look into.
I think certainly the rise of UAV technology and the increasing number of satellites that are, you know, capturing information all the time, remote sensing and skills are definitely something that I'm seeing in my consultancy role. You know, seeing them increasingly in demand, and you know, we've got a huge number of satellites now. Things like you know, GeoEye and all these other, you know, worldview satellites that are extremely detailed and you know, providing all sorts of information in not just the visible bands, but the near infrared, and you know, there's a huge number of applications that are going to be developed on the back of those, especially where they're, you know, going to be freely available, like the Sentinel program. So certainly look into those, play around with the data, get familiar with the tools for manipulating them. I think it's something that I would suggest.
Just reverting back to what we said earlier, one of the points you made was get out there and find these companies. You know, go out and look for them. That they are out there, and I'm sure they're going to be interested in hearing from you.
Okay, so just have a look down for any further questions. As GIS is sometimes used in many industries, it can sometimes be difficult to apply for jobs outside of your current industry, as you have little or no experience in that field, but the base GIS skills are the same. What's the best way to try and switch to a different field within GI? So,
I don't think there's any specific answer to this, but we get some clients who are quite happy to cross people across industries. There are some projects that we supply people to where you need to have previous industry experience. So I think it all depends on the job that you apply for. And the client, the end client that you're working with. Some clients are flexible, some clients will require you to have industry experience. So I suppose if you're really looking at a specific industry sector you have no experience in, you know, you could maybe try and pick up some of the technologies that they use within that specific sector and undertake some courses within them. But like I said, there's no specific answer to that question. I wouldn't say it's very client and company dependent. I think depends on who's doing the recruiting.
Okay, another question here from Mika Svart. I come from an academic field, brackets ecology, but would like to move into industry. What would you recommend as the best way forward? Is a geography degree needed, or is experience in ArcGIS enough?
I would say both. I would say undertaking a degree in geography or ArcGIS or GIS if you want to move into that industry. That would help you, certainly help you progress better. Some clients do require degrees for the jobs, some don't specify them, but there's a lot of people out there, and we touched on it again earlier, it is a competitive market, so anything to get yourself ahead. And I would say that if you've got the opportunity and the time to do a degree, and that you really know that's the industry that you want to work in, I would say take it. But having ArcGIS experience is good as well. But I think if you want to have a job which is core focused around GIS, it's important to undertake the degree. Cool.
Okay, well, I think that's about it for questions. If anyone's very rapid, they might get another one in, but we're just about at the top of the hour.
Yeah, people can feel free to contact me if they've got any other questions as well. The contact details were there, and if you need any more advice, feel free to give me a shout.
I should also say that we're, this is just the first of hopefully what will be a series of webinars. So we have a few other people lined up. Just checking via email, John's been invited to give a talk somewhere else on the back of this. So we'll see what happens. But we're also, we're looking for speakers. So if you want to get involved in the scheme, you want to understand more about. We want to understand more about your needs, what the sort of things you want to see, who you want to see talking at events and webinars. So please do let us know. And just a final reminder that later in the week we'll be launching the questionnaire, which will give you a real opportunity to sort of respond to that in a sort of a more formal way. So thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
All the best. Thanks.